Greetings and welcome to the real Monster D. That would be me. Yes. So, who do you believe are the tip-top titans, the kings of all kaiju, the absolute masters of all giant monsters? Well, the top of that list may be obvious, or it may seem obvious. Of course, you have Godzilla, and you have King Kong, right? Probably two of the all-time most famous giant monsters there are, right? And then you have Gamera. But while Gamera might be third, I will go so far as to say he is a distant third. Way down lower. Godzilla might be way up here, and Gamera, I do not know that I can bring him low enough. And I am sad to say that, because I do believe that Gamera is every bit the monster legend that the others are. He deserves a high spot. But one must admit that this poor monster sadly has just not been relevant as of late. I mean, his last film was in 2006 with Gamera the Brave. I mean, Godzilla has well over 30 films, and King Kong is relevant all the way up to now. I mean, he and Godzilla are both due a movie next year. So, what do you think that those two have that Gamera does not? What is the one thing that could push Gamera from his level all the way up to be right next to the other two? Well, I believe I know what that thing is. I believe it is metal. Oh no, I did not just mean heavy metal music, although that in a Gamera movie I definitely could get behind. No, what I am saying is Gamera needs a Mecha Gamera. Yes. Think about it. Godzilla has Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla was created in the latter end of his original 60s and 70s Showa career and added a certain level of respect and awe at the tail end of his waning years then. So much so that the studio thought just several years later to bring Godzilla back again. Mechagodzilla followed him into the Heisei series in a brand new form there, as well as following him into the Millennium series with the much beloved Kaiju Mechagodzilla. Yes. And, not to be outdone, King Kong himself has Mechanicon as his counterpart. Now granted, Mechanicon has not gone quite as far as Mechagodzilla, but he was the one that actually inspired Mechagodzilla. In fact, came before him in the grand old movie King Kong Escapes. And ever since that movie, King Kong has gone on to have a reboot in the 70s, which had its own sequel, as well as the much lauded, Oscar-baited Peter Jackson remake in 2005. And of course, he is been reborn now in the legendary continuity with Kong Skull Island and is set to appear once more in the brand new rematch to his most heralded enemy, Godzilla vs. Kong. And I think it is in no small part to both of them having mechas. I mean, even though Mechanicon has not been in another movie, he was at least enough to have a guest spot on The Muppet Show. I bet you did not know that. And well, just think of all the possibilities that a mighty mechanical monster could add. I mean, when you think about Mechagodzilla, he is such an imposing foe for Godzilla. He often jockeys for that number one arch-enemy position with Ghidorah. I mean, who does Gamera have for his foe? Everyone says that his archenemy is Gauss. But Gauss is almost the Kmart brand of Rodan. Not quite as amazing or awe-inspiring as a mecha version of the giant Tuscan turtle could be. Think about it. And so many different things you could do. I mean, you could really throw people for a loop instead of modernizing Gamera with a new movie, as every other monster has been doing. You could go retro and create a brand new 70s style Mecha Gamera. Or you could bring it into the Heisei style with the big thick thighs and a teeny tiny head and shoulder pads for no reason. Or, of course, you could modernize it and make it all technical and specific and gleaming. Yes. Perhaps you could make it all blurry and just a big confused computer mess and throw a bunch of dust and blur on him and turn him into a Bay Mecha Gamera turtle. You know what? Scratch that from the records. Forget I said that. Send that idea spinning away. Ugh. But think about the kinds of arsenal this turtle would have to have. I mean, he could have a brand new, updated blowtorch, almost Bunsen-style fire breath. He could have all manner of missiles and rockets and lasers coming out of his shell storage unit. He could have missile launchers coming out of weird, odd, confusing places. And you know you would have to have the most awesome flying mode of all. I mean, Gamera already cornered the market on flying modes, so a mechanized version of himself would have to go out of its way to up that ante. Just imagine those possibilities, yes. Why, I like to imagine the Mecha Gamera as being all the more aquatic of a monster. Imagine you're standing on a cruise ship, and off in the distance you see something jut out of the water, and it appears to be the tip top of a submarine. But as it gets closer and it surfaces higher and higher, you realize, no, this is but the tip tail of the great Mecha Gamera. Yes. So much fun could be had there. So, tell me, what do you think of this idea? Do you think Mecha Gamera would work to revive this reptile? What type of a mecha do you think it should be? Should it be piloted? Should it be heroic? Should it be villainous? Or something else entirely? Feel free to share your ideas below with what you think a mechanized Gamera should be. Are you in the mood for some metal monsters? Well, if not, what are you doing here for? When you deal with Monster D, you always have equal parts monster and metal, yes. But right now, I have something very specific in mind. I'm going to present to you 5 musical tracks, each of which depict a particular monster, and each are named after said monster. That is right. So each of these songs actually represents the personal characteristics of one of these monsters. So we are going to sink our teeth right into this list of lovely songs. Are you ready? Song number 1 is Jugulator from the album Jugulator from the band Judas Priest. Yes. Ooh, Jugulator is a monstrous one to start out with indeed. Not only did this album mark the drastic change in the bringing in of then new vocalist Tim Ripper Owens, it also marked a decidedly different type of sound for the band. Gone was their classic sort of finesse and replaced with a much more visceral, almost cartoonishly violent sound. Yes, they went out of their way to have more sort of explicit details noted in the way that things unfolded in these horrific tales. And with the title creature itself, Jugulator, just that name, that name just says it all. And it certainly helps to have the title creature right on the cover. Is that monster not beautiful? I can just imagine this Jugulator making his way onto the metal stage to scream out his own name. And that is one of the hallmarks of this song. It starts out with this kind of cymbal clanging intro and with a little bit of bellowing and growling thanks to some clever instruments, and then it rolls into this great high-pitched scream of a whale. And you know Jugulator is here. Let us move on, shall we? Next we have the song The Horla by Angel Witch on the album As Above, So Below. The Horla is taken from an old French poem, which was then adapted into the fold of one H.P. Lovecraft. Yes, it is actually rather nice to hear something Lovecraftian that does not involve the Cthulhu for a change. Would you not say? The Horla is said to be a sort of invisible herald ushering in the much larger and more powerful cosmic beings. And this song does a great job building up a sort of tense, intrinsic, existential kind of horror. It has an almost acoustic feel to it when it begins, sort of gently rolling in, but then when it gets to the creature's entrance itself, then it ramps up and becomes as fierce as this band could ever be. Yes. I definitely recommend adding the Horla to your monstrous music collection. Next, we have the song Mutilator by Cloven Hoof. How about that? Back to back, new wave of British heavy metal bands. This comes to you on the album The Definitive Part 1, which is interesting as so many of the songs on here are re-recorded versions of classic Cloven Hoof songs. However, to my knowledge, Mutilator stands out as an original track to this album. And, is it a juggernaut of a song. This thing comes in and just runs right after you. This is like a horror movie chase scene turned into a song. Yes. Descriptive, very thrashy, very fierce, and no holds barred here. Much like Jugulator, Mutilator says it all. Next, we have the song Wordalack by Rob Zombie. Yes. On the album The Electric Warlock Acid Witch, yada 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 yada. It's a very long title. Rob Zombie decided to go almost budgian with his album titles as of late, as well as the track titles too, which actually makes this track stand out all the more on this album. Wordalack is actually taken from I believe it's a Slavic term, which ultimately means a type of vampire. Yes. But it definitely sets a very particular, unique character in mind here. It's not just any normal vampire. The tone is set, Rob lays it down in this kind of ultra heavy, slow, almost industrial meets doom feel. Quite different from his normal fare. I mean, he tends to do either sort of speedy, kind of quick metal songs, or more almost club dance related metal songs. And this is certainly neither of those. I mean, it takes his time and builds its horror in the most amazing way. So yes, Word Lack. And last but most certainly not least, Pain, Pain, Killer, Killer. That is right, Painkiller, from the album Painkiller by Judas Priest. Oh, do you think I feel bad by starting and ending this list with 2 Judas Priest tracks? Not at all. For as I previously alluded, Jugulator and Painkiller might as well be different bands. The sounds really are starkly different, which is pretty wild considering Jugulator fairly immediately followed Painkiller. The Painkiller, actually, it might almost be debatable which of those 2 songs sounds more modern. Painkiller definitely was a step up in terms of their audio production, but not getting into the technical sides, Painkiller just sounds like a fierce character, and again, it helps having the title monster on the cover, a true 100% metal monster riding on a on a motorcycle beast. Yes, and this depicts a creature that, in my mind, is a sort of monster of vengeance, sort of slaying those who perhaps spent their time slaying the more innocent. So, almost like a Ghost Rider type character, in a sense. And I also sort of see Painkiller as being the middle in this kind of vengeful seeker trilogy that Judas Priest had going on. For they previously did a song called Exciter, which took a very similar path, and then later on they did a song called Redeemer of Souls, which was sort of a more uplifted version of this type of character. But Painkiller, by far, is the meanest of the 3 and the most fierce out of all of these metal monsters. So you tell me, what do you believe is the ultimate metal monster? Feel free to leave your list in the comments below. Stay metal, stay monstrous. Hello, and welcome to another drawing challenge. Oh, a surprise I have today. I was actually just opening a brand new pack of metallic markers. Ooh, yes. So, I thought I would mark this momentous occasion by creating a 5-minute metal monster. Yes. What do you think about that? Can I do it with these brand new markers? Or perhaps I should have to break them in a little bit. Oof, I do not like the idea of putting the words break and marker together. That could stain the floor. Anyway, 5-minute metal monster, 5 minutes or less. Do you think I can do it? Here is the time, and begin. Now, what do you think of when you think of metal monster? Let me see here. I'm going to go right for the obvious. Spikes. Spikes. All the spikes. Alright. And then we're going to go from there. Let us test out all of these brand new markers. Let's see what they do, huh? Let me see. I do not know that I've ever done a drawing challenge anywhere with right then brand new, never used materials. So this is quite fun. I actually did not intend on going where I just went, but that is okay. The joy of using a marker, of using ink, is that you do not really have time to assess your mistakes. You just keep going and do and hope for the best. Alright. I am going to change this up and see what else we have here. Ooh. Quite the colors. I'll use this for some teeth. Some metal red teeth. Ah! I think this is turning into more of a metal logo monster. Alright. Keep going, keep going. Maybe this could be a golden skull. You have heard of the crystal skulls. How about golden skulls? Is that metal enough for you? If I actually took the time to really think about it, I could probably get a good fake sheen on this to really lift up the metal and make it look like it's shinier than even what it is. But at the moment, I feel like I am just going more for form. And of course, when you think of metal, there's more than one way to go. There's metal as in the stuff that you make things with, and of course there is metal, which you know I am all about. And the two quite often will collide. I mean, there's metal all over the instruments. You may or may not already know that many of those founding fathers of metal were forged at places, at actual machine shops. Many of them either worked in machine shops or breathed in machine shop smog, which I do not recommend. But I thank them for taking it for us so that they could take that sort of not so great situation and turning it into some beautiful music. There we go. And I think I'm going to add just a little bit of a flaming smolder in there. Eyes on fire. Actually, maybe more fire even coming out. Whew. I have to get control of that orange and get it replaced. Alright. Maybe it could be... Oh, wait a minute. How about a blue metal flame? How about that? Ooh. How does that work? Metal enough for you yet? Let me fill this part in. So at least you'll know that the nose goes there. And let me sign it. Oh, look at that. Woo! Now, what do you think? Is that metal enough of a monster for you? Would you like to adorn it on your band name, logo, or drum kit, perhaps? Perhaps we could cut a deal and you could. Well, in any case, I thank you for joining me for this drawing challenge and for the entire video. Yes, please like this video if indeed you did, and do toll that bell so you can be ready, willing, and salivating for the very next episode of The Real Monster D. Stay monstrous.